I'm the founder and president of Divorce Right, where we provide training for HR professionals and company supervisors. And we provide divorce coaching and case management, providing guidance and direction that your divorcing employees so desperately need. Divorce is a huge disruptor, not only to your employee going through it, but to the company they work for. And our coaches have a unique perspective on divorce that sets us apart from the competition. They have a deep understanding of the legal, financial, and emotional aspects of divorce, and they can handle even the highest conflict of cases with compassion and professionalism. And our coaches are trained to look at the entire picture, helping your employees make better decisions based upon their goals and their expectations. So if you're an HR benefits manager or an HR benefits provider or consultant, please reach out to us and see if adding our suite of solutions is a good fit for your business. And as a reminder, we have SHRM credits for SHRM members, and we'll be posting a link at the end of this broadcast so that you can be sure to grab those. And today we're going to be talking about the difference between a divorce coach and a divorce attorney with family law attorney and certified divorce coach Lisa Zonder. Not only is Lisa a certified divorce coach, but she is a divorce transition and recovery coach. She is also a divorce attorney, a veteran divorce attorney. Lisa's a family law attorney, mediator, and collaborative divorce professional with over 30 years experience in her field. After her own divorce and working tirelessly in the divorce field, Lisa realized that there was a need for a more comprehensive and compassionate approach to divorce services. She launched WO40 Coaching LLC, a separate entity from her law firm, to provide personalized coaching and legal consulting services to clients in high net worth, legally, financially, and emotionally complex cases. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad to have you from sunny California.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So glad to have you and so honored because what you bring to this table for us is somebody that is not only a family law attorney, but saw the value in what a divorce coach brings to the entire case for your clients. And I appreciate that you took the time to learn about it, got certified, even took it even a little bit further than that. So I think what we want to do today is kind of talk about the difference between, you know, your job as an attorney, and a great one because I know her very well and I know her work, but also your work as a coach. So I know you've prepared a presentation for us.
Yes.
You want to just walk us through that, or do we need to be set up for this?
Oh, yeah. Can we set up to have that shared? Excellent. Thank
There
you
you go.
so much. Okay. So I just want to go through, Vicki, and talk a little bit about my background so that I give folks out there an idea of how I, sort of my evolution, I'll say, from, divorce lawyer, certified family law specialist into coach. So I started practicing over 30 years ago. When you say the word veteran, by the way, I'm feeling old, but not your fault. It is veteran when you're 30 years. And I eventually became a certified specialist, certified by the State Bar of California, Board of Legal Specialization, and that I did in 1999. Been doing this for over 30 years, including with celebrity divorces and high net worth. What I really found myself fascinated by is complex cases, especially where I had the opportunity to collaborate with various other professionals, including the mental health professionals and the financial professionals. And for me, I always loved that interdisciplinary work, being able to come together as a team for the benefit of our clients. And so I've done mediation work where I mediated as a neutral for the couple. And that is something that some attorneys do, not all attorneys do. And my goal in doing the mediation work was basically to make it so that the family could, without, so to speak, lawyering up, get through a process where they only needed to go to the attorney to review their hopeful settlement agreement that they would hopefully come to at the end of the road. And so I was always looking for these alternative processes, even though I got trained in some of the big law firms like Trope and Trope in Los Angeles and Neil Hirsch, some of the great attorneys out there in Southern California who tend to litigate. in being in this field for a long while, I eventually found myself spending a lot of time with clients who I would give them legal solutions and they would look at me like, but I have much bigger problems than this. Thanks for filing that motion for me. But, and then they would share with me all of this other stuff that was running through their head, whether it was, I'm having a hard time showing up as my best self. I'm like really in a state right now where I'm kind of shut down. Maybe even some people are drinking, taking to alcohol. They're not interacting with their kids because they're so shut down by virtue of the divorce. And so they would talk to me about transitioning and like, I have to go back out into the workplace and how am I going to find a house? I can't afford anything right now. And they just, a lot of overwhelm. And so I realized that since people were sharing all their personal details with me, I had to be able to do more than just say, and that's terrible, right? Because that's not helpful. And I realized too that a lot of these people wouldn't go to a therapist, or they were and they weren't still able to move forward with the divorce because they were dealing with some other issues in therapy. Hence, I decided to go for the coaching credential, and I went through a certified divorce coaching program and a transformational life coach program. And when I think about that, I added that to the boot camp training I did in litigation, meaning in the courts. And now finally, I feel like I have a much more holistic view of everybody, when they come into my practice. I think about my own divorce story, which I won't bore you with the details of, in the 90s. And it was a really, I felt really alone. I was suffering alone there and silently because I basically remember one day, this is like etched in my brain forever. I was walking through the law firm at Trope when I went through my divorce from my ex, and I literally had sunglasses on. I know it's Southern California, but sunglasses hiding tears because nobody could see how sad I was. And I think one of the partners caught on because he pulled me into his office to say what's going on. So I don't think I was as good at disguising it as I thought I was, stuffing my emotions down, really didn't have a lot of support, wasn't really interested in telling my friends. A lot of them were professionals and I was sort of embarrassed. So anyway, that basically, and then, doing some of the work that I do with the courts, I realized, there's got to be a better way. So that's where I started with this vision of like, okay, let's go do coaching. So just within the last year, I launched my coaching. It's called WO40 Coaching, standing basically for Women Over 40 Coaching. It's really also for men. It just happens to be that the niche that we have, more women, have tended to confide all these details, but it's not exclusive to women. And so in this coaching and consulting role that I've taken on, I'm able to do more than just give legal advice, but also to provide coaching. And so my focus also happens to be on these complex cases because it's something that I started out doing a long time ago. And the complex cases, sorry, I'm trying to move to my next slide here. Bear with me a second. The complex cases are effectively where, people have a couple, more than one property. They have maybe custody issues, sort of high conflict. They've gotten blindsided by the whole divorce experience, and they're looking for somebody to help them. And they've got oftentimes like a coordination of tax attorneys, real estate attorneys, maybe corporate. And so we're actually helping them work through collaboration of a lot of thick legal issues. So for example, there might be a real estate developer with multiple LLCs and a lot of tax repercussions and how to figure out what income is there so that the support to the receiving spouse, the payee, is understood, well understood. So yeah, it gets thick, and the basics that I don't want to focus on the details of how to deal with complex divorces here. So I'm just touching on that as sort of my focus. My demographic is basically now, whereas in my law practice, I'm open to people in California. I'm able to service divorcees across the U.S., men and women. Mostly they're business or service professionals. So that relates a lot to what we're talking about here. And, representative industries are listed here: biotech, high-tech, physicians, CEOs, lawyers, engineers, a lot of my typical client base. I actually had a tax attorney once call me a divorce Sherpa, so I thought that was sort of
Well, and what I love about your ability to take this, first of all, coaching, divorce coaching is something that you can do across the country. There is no state lines, because we're not offering legal advice or financial advice. We're not offering, mental health diagnoses. We are here to coach them to get to the finish line of where they want to end up. And your expertise in having that attorney mind allows you to think like their attorneys are thinking, so that you can kind of, that, shapeshifter into what's happening, even though the laws may be different. And like I say, you're not giving legal advice. You can create the results that they need by understanding what's going to happen to them throughout the case. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a recent example would be, I got a call from somebody out of state, and, one of her first questions was, I really don't know how to find the right attorney. And so in coaching, I offered her coaching. She accepted. I told her that I could not actually give any legal consultation because I was not admitted in her jurisdiction. But what we did talk about was exactly what her criteria were. Who did she want to work with? And so we went through and explored that. And we were thinking partners around that, selection of counsel. And it wasn't a very long session. I mean, we can do some of these troubleshooting sessions in 30 minutes. It wasn't like, some project that turned into, months long. And it really helped her get clear on her choice of counsel. And that was a big decision for her because of her husband and how he was acting in the divorce and the high conflict nature, and, what the lawyers were charging there. She'd gotten quotes of $20,000 and $30,000 for deposits, for retainers, and stylistically, so yeah, lots to go through there. But yeah, I definitely see coaching offering benefits even in the micro consults. So it doesn't need to be necessarily a whole case for a very long time. Coaching can be a very short intervention.
Right.
Of course, as other issues develop, I'm, suspecting that, I'll get a call back, because that's what happens from time to time. There's a reach back out. Okay, now I'm stuck and I feel stuck on, decision-making time, and I have some indecision, and then we'll coach on that. So yeah, I think it could be great in terms of short interventions that really help somebody get clear, save themselves money. And to that end, maybe I could segue into this sample case. So, when you're an employer, sometimes, and I've had this happen in my own law practice, by the way, we don't always realize when our employees are going through a tough time. And we might notice, like I said to you, I was crying and hiding myself behind sunglasses.
We all were.
Yeah, I've seen people moping around, the office, and sort of like, you could just tell they're down. Their whole body's just sort of, their posture is shut down. I mean, there are some telltale signs, right? They're not their chipper selves. Their performance is lacking, right? We start to see performance issues. And what I've noticed is, so when these clients come to me and, they're having trouble, they're not focusing at all, right? Not at work, not in their personal lives, not when it comes to their legal case. We see the same things, like they're not focused, they're disorganized. They just don't have the executive functioning to really hold it together. And so, we need to start looking a little bit. Well, we don't need to, but I mean, as the coach and the attorney, I would start looking at, what's going on over there. Let me see, below the iceberg is what we call it in coaching. And so I get a little bit more of a sense of what's happening beneath the surface, but, superficially, like on the level, I'm seeing that they're struggling with organization. So I had a woman come to me not too long ago, and she said that her husband had basically been hiding assets. The income was not known. It was being dealt out to a family member. And by the way, I've had lots of cases like this, and it doesn't just describe any one client, just to be clear. And, she said she was having a hard time with the team. She had hired an attorney and she'd hired a financial professional. And she said that there were court papers and filings. She didn't understand what was being done. This happened to be a California case. And so she said they weren't even, I found out after asking her a bunch of questions in a coaching, after we established a coaching agreement, and I asked some powerful questions and found out that the team wasn't collaborating. And so what that meant was that her attorney was off doing one thing and her financial professional was off doing another study, and the two weren't connecting. So one of the first things we did was we helped her organize, like, what are your key issues? She didn't even know. She said she came in, I'm not joking, with like, I don't know if it was a suitcase or some kind of like bags, like lots of bags.
Trunk.
We called it the bag lady, when she came in. She jokingly referred to herself. She's like, the bag lady's here, and she came in with all this stuff. And so like we let her put it all out all across the conference table, and we had to dig in somewhere. Like, what is the biggest issue that you're experiencing? What's your biggest pain point? Where are you? And so she finally said, I don't know. There's like this issue for $5,000, and there's this issue for $100,000, and then there's the house for $5 million. And I went, okay, wait, let's prioritize this in some way. And so we were able to create a poster board and then some digital, like some notes of like, what is it that she's trying to accomplish? And she was able to take that back to her attorney. And I did not want to take over the case because she was too far into it. In other words, the transactional cost for her to switch attorneys. So I basically said to her, okay, let's prioritize, let's develop a list of questions, and then we're going to get to some decision making. And then we're going to get the team to collaborate. So we had lots of problems to do. So, that's the kind of like a representative case that comes in. Now, these folks had like multiple LLCs, multiple real estate holdings across many states. And, there were a variety of attorneys that she'd been working with, but the problem was none of them were really in collaboration.
Yes.
And you do? You've had that experience too?
I feel your pain. I know exactly, because that's actually how I got into this. It's like nobody talks to one another. There is no centralized hub, which is what we want to be. We want to be that centralized hub to the, right? It's like,
yes. I know. Like we're both doing the same body language of like, yeah. I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves is when you don't have collaboration between the other professionals and your office. And then, you're trying to like, they have to be talking to each other, the right and the left hands, right? Otherwise you just don't know what's going on. And so there's like a lot of blind spots. Of course, we all have blind spots, but then if you don't know what the forensic accountant's working on and you don't know that there's a particular tax law that has a repercussion, the lawyer could inadvertently go into court asking for something and then realize that there's this huge tax hit there that they didn't even think about. So we really need to be more in collaboration with each other. And the coach serves that function because I was able to work with my client as a thinking partner. And then actually, I'm trying to help her have those tools. So I, the coach, didn't have to interject myself into every aspect of her case. I gave her the questions. We formulated them together. And then she brought them to the attorney. And the attorney, eventually I had a call with him. And this in this one case that I'm reflecting back on. And he said, wow, this is really helpful. I had no idea that A, B, C, and D were going on. And so we're able to either work directly if they're the firm's clients, like with my Zonder Family Law Group, or I'm able to work directly with someone else's team that's already in place. And I am not there to take over their case. I'm literally there to give the client the tools so she could be the captain or could be the captain of their own ship. Now they kind of get this sense of confidence, like I really know what I'm doing in my case. They have a clear vision. And so that to me is a really important point when clients come in. And especially when they're dealing, by the way, with court hearings. That's just so overwhelming.
So for our audience of HR managers and benefits providers, if you can understand the value to a company to have who has an executive that's going through this process, to have somebody that steers the ship with him or her that gets them more focused and, ready for everything that's coming up and organized. How great is that for your organization? Right?
100%. 100%. Yes, Vicki, absolutely agree. And also, I think in the end, if you're, and this happened with my particular client, one or two that I'm reflecting on, I had a physician, same thing. I've had several physicians like this where their performance at the hospital, they were really off. They were just getting really scattered. Get them the support they need. Why are so many professionals suffering silently, right? A lot of times, I think statistics, and I don't have them in front of me, so I apologize, but a lot of times employees, at least anecdotally, I've been hearing from my clients, feel really unsupported by their employers. They don't even sometimes know.
If I can just suggest, I'm your statistics girl. Here's some statistics for you. So 10% of divorcing employees quit within the first year. The number one reason, Lisa, that they quit is exactly what you just said. They felt unsupported and uncared for at work. That leave your divorce at home. Right. Well, divorce is a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 industry. And when you have to provide evidence, you have to send documentation, you have to take phone calls, you have to go to court. It's all Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You can't leave it at home.
Yeah, and one of the things I know from coaching too is this whole idea of work-life integration, right? A lot of employees feel like they want to be able to bring some kind of healthy balance or find a way to incorporate their personal and their work life. At this time, I think that's like such a huge concern. It preoccupies a lot of employees. So one of the things that I mean, it's probably, I don't want to be Captain Obvious, but like, right, if you can give some flex scheduling and give some time off.
Right.
I know as an attorney, I've had a lot of people say to me, you know what, my employer's not going to give me the time off. I'm like, it's court. I can't, the judge isn't going to move your court hearings because of your time off issue. Right. And so then they're like, it's a dilemma. Do I lose my job? Do I like tick off a judge? What am I doing?
Right.
So
exactly.
To me, yeah, like don't force them into these tough decisions. I mean, obviously within reason, right? They can't take off 15 times in the course of 2 weeks to go to court, and that's probably not realistic anyway. But so I think that helps show the company's commitment, and then they feel supported, and then I think the entire organization benefits, because I've been talking about how like the employer feels, but also the coworkers, right? The coworkers oftentimes are like, in the back rooms talking about like at the cooler, so-and-so is having a really bad time. We know they're going through some kind of relationship trouble or divorce. We don't know all the details, and then all the gossip starts. And, so that's bad too, right? That's bad for morale. Oh, I've had to pick up such and such shift because, this person isn't showing up.
It's a huge team disruptor. It's a huge team disruptor because people miss deadlines, right? They miss meetings and all of that. And what I love about what we do, Lisa, is we provide a more organized, focused employee so they don't have to worry. They don't, and quite frankly, get them through the process a heck of a lot faster. So that they don't have additional meetings and time away from work and disruptions and all of that stuff. We can keep their head from spinning up here so that they can be more organized and focused at work.
And also they become a credible client for the attorney, right? So as an attorney, absolutely. I'm working with clients who don't have their head on straight a lot of times. And I think to myself, I just offer them coaching. If they don't want it, it's totally fine. Sometimes it's like more of a pathology and it needs to get dealt with by a therapist, right? Because coaches are not therapists. So coaches tend to move people from point A to point B, right? That's how we partner with the clients. And it turns out that, the therapists they're fantastic, by the way. I've got a few colleagues I work with on a pretty regular basis, but they actually go back to understand the history so that they can help move the client forward. We don't delve so much into history, right? We're just moving them forward. But the coach isn't there to be the lawyer, and the lawyer isn't there to be a coach. I've heard a lot of my peers who've gone out into the coaching world say, I've talked to some law firms and try to get them to take me on as a coach. And the lawyers, sometimes they're struggling a little bit because they think they're already doing this in-house. But The truth is, we're so busy when we're in our own law practice, we're
Oh
dealing
God.
with court dates, discovery deadlines, filing motion, reviewing papers, dealing with the client directly on the legal matters. It's so hard to really sit down, and without the tools and without the skill set, you're really not looking at the client holistically. You're looking at them from the lens of the law. And
Yeah.
really, when a client experiences divorce, they're experiencing it emotionally. I think there's 4 divorces that I've heard about, right? The financial, the legal, the emotional, and the social, right?
Yep.
Four different dimensions that they're experiencing on. And some would say the spiritual dimension too, because it affects you spiritually sometimes. So that's 5 potentially. Like, no, the lawyers are not really focused in with their lens on all of those different dimensions. That's just not real. It's not,
And
we don't have
it's
time.
not their job,
And
right?
it's
It's just not their job.
Yeah. I mean, we could definitely be tuned in to the clients and very well attuned to what they need, but we're generally not doing coaching. So, what do coaches do that's different from what lawyers do? We really sit and focus on brainstorming options. We're not telling. We don't come from a place of telling clients what to do, right? We are thinking partners with the clients. We collaborate we're in a very co-creative process with the client. We want it to be a solution that they own, that's based on their own desires. That starts with the principle of clients are creative, whole, and resourceful. So if you start with that premise, you've got a whole person, and that whole person knows what's best for them, right? We might think, move out of the house. You don't have the money to pay for that house anymore. They might be creative and thinking, this lawyer doesn't know me. I have a roommate I can bring in and, make enough money to stay in my family residence with my kids and have a separate part of my house be for a roommate. So we don't impose our own, thoughts and
Right.
solutions. We actually ask. So we provide different perspectives. We can do visualizations with clients. We partner with them. So the way we do it is we basically hold the space for them. We focus them down to what they want to create. We help them move from point A to point B, which is called designing actions. And we really support them to be the architect of their own lives. And so that again goes back to that they're whole, creative, and resourceful. And that this comes up in so many different ways that I just don't have, I think we don't have enough time to really cover all of it. But I could be helping somebody in a coaching realm. Let's say they already have an existing divorce lawyer and a forensic accountant. I could be helping them gather paperwork, as you said. Sometimes there's so much scattered, chaotic stuff going on. They're in a state of overwhelm. We need their credit card statements, right? We're trying to prepare all of their financials, right? So we can help them gather it and give them like techniques to like gather the most critical documents. So organization, prioritization, clarity, all of these different things. I can help them project manage. This is huge. I can help them project manage their budget for their attorneys. Okay.
Mm.
How much are you spending on this legal professional? And also like just help them with the selection of the team. I think I mentioned that earlier, and controlling their own so that they can be captain of their own ship. And so anyway, the coach rates are also generally lower than the legal rates by a lot across the US. I think, I don't know what averages are, but they tend to be a lot lower, sometimes even a third, but there's certainly a fraction of lawyer rates. And so those are really some of the benefits of the coach. And then, and just that we do both pre-divorce and, transitioning people after divorce. And I know you were mentioning before we came into the show that you wanted to talk about some of that, the EAP programs, Vicki. So I'm going to
Right.
turn it to you for that.
Yeah, right. So in small, medium, and large companies, they have things called EAPs where there is support with mental health, and there is support with legal assistance, whether that's a discounted legal program or a prepaid insurance program. And both of those are great, right? But they are when it comes to family law, it is not necessarily the best choice. As a matter of fact, I would say that it really sets them up for one way to divorce, and there are 5 ways to divorce in this country. It throws them immediately into litigation
Right.
without options to do it another way. And I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. I used to be on many of the panels, and with all due respect to the panels, I think they're doing a service to clients when they do need an attorney. Mostly the attorneys who sign up for these panels are going to be lesser experienced, newer, younger attorneys, and that's great because they can still provide a legal service, but they almost always default to litigation, which is court process. And we're really, I think, overlooking and should give a lot more thought to being in a mediated process or a collaborative divorce process. Those other processes like mediation tend to be less expensive, collaborative somewhere in the middle. Court being the most expensive process and creates the most stress. The clients generally, unless they're high conflict, really would appreciate, I think, being able to get compensated by their insurance plans for being in a process that's a lot more civil and amicable. And many people do work well enough together. They're functional enough to be able to go through a mediation. And having done a lot of mediation, the costs are really a lot less expensive than litigation. And so I think giving the client the choice to have the experience they want and not imposing a stressful process on them, like being in a court is it's huge to do something that I think honors the clients and their choices, and also benefits the employee. The employers get a benefit too, I think, in the end.
It's giving them the option to have the right legal representation for the right reason, because I think that those programs, and I really do, I think they're great if you need a will, if you have to sue your neighbor because their tree fell on your fence, or you're a mechanic because your car came back bad, or a myriad of other things. Getting to me, for me, it was always getting out of traffic tickets. I have a little bit of a that's true. But and it's great for that, and it's really great for all of those other things. It's when it comes to divorce that becomes so complex and can so easily escalate with just a gentle nudge, that it's just not my favorite option for employees as the first attempt, right? Instead of throwing them into a process that can destroy them, right? It can destroy you financially, and it can destroy you emotionally. And when we talk about how divorce impacts productivity within the workplace, the statistics, Lisa, are that it can affect an employee for about 40% of their productivity for about 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
And and I mean, it's not, and the longer, with litigation can just go and go and go. It's the only process that I can think of where there's not only no financial incentive to get it finished, but there's actually a financial incentive to those people that really don't, to keep it going. And so
personalities and also the lawyers, because a lot of times litigators, right, they make their fees off of continuing litigation. And it's a rare attorney that will say to you, stop, let's look at the cost benefit analysis here. This isn't worth it. Right. And the other thing too is like the employers, the big companies really benefit, because if you send your, especially in California, I can't speak to every other jurisdiction. I think New York is similar in the big cities, but where you have a case that's litigating for 3 to 5 years, think about the toll it's taking on that employee. And, then if they quit, then you've got that whole startup and hiring a new hire, and there's a cost of, transition to another employee and the onboarding and all that it takes. So
it's exhaustive and it's expensive.
Yes.
So, yeah. So Lisa, I see you've got your contact information up there. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us today and sharing with us the difference between what an attorney can do for you and what a coach can do for you. And I hope that if you're an employer and you are listening to this, that you can start to see that outside of the realm of legal representation, there is so much more that can be done for your employees so that they can get through this and a kinder and gentler way. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. And everybody that wants to get in touch with Lisa, she's an amazing attorney. I highly recommend her and have many times. So thank you all for now. Next week, we're going to be talking about peaceful mediations and how that can impact your employees. So stay tuned for next week, because we are always coming up with different topics on how you can support your employees as they move through one of the most difficult transitions of their entire life. So thank you so much for joining us. If there is an opportunity for us to help you and your team, please reach out to me, message me on any of our social media channels, and we are happy to have a conversation to see if one of our affordable options is a good fit for your business. Thank you all for now, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. Bye, Lisa.